Good morning, everybody. 31st of May, 2025. It's 8:30 in the morning, and yeah, it's getting kind of warm. It's 11 degrees. I'm sort of seeing that the trend is actually we're starting to get some summer. At least it's about time. Sometimes you get these really, really nice May. The month of May, very, very good here. I've only been here since 3 years, but anyway, the first one was really great. I don't think last year was super great. And this year it certainly is not so great. I mean, had the rain here now for 3 days. Very, very light rain. But anyway, let me say one other thing before I start getting into the news here. Like about YouTube, and I'm hearing a little bit more about, it's not just YouTube, it's also about Rumble. And they have these agencies, and I've mentioned it before, and I've noticed that quite a few people use these agencies. I guess you pay money to get more views. So it's kind of questionable of how many are real views that a lot of people get. Like I said, I know of one, and the person admitted to me, I mean, not really to me, but other people. I've heard it from 3 different people, but I know the guy. But anyway, he pays over, I think, or maybe it was around $200 a month to get a huge amount of view. I mean, like it's 20,000 views, I think. Maybe 15, I don't know. I don't know how many, but anyway, they up your views. And I think I had some offers on that on my site. But I don't know. Very strange. I don't know if they give you exposure. I have no idea on how that works. But it turns out that a lot of those views are completely fake. Like like I said, one guy that I know, and he had a YouTube channel. He still does, definitely, because I watch it too. I've subscribed to him. But he puts things out, and I guess he's had videos that really went viral a few times. And of course, YouTube shut those things down big time. And so he goes on this other show where the guy pays for views. And yeah, it's like the show that he was on. Well, anyway, let me say a little bit more before that. He has these other times, like when he went on another show, or on a different show, a different thing, and he got more subscribers. I don't know, 20 more subscribers after he went on one podcast, and there was only I don't know, 260 views or something like that. I don't know. And then he went on this other one where the guy pays for these things, and I think the views were like 20,000 views. I think it was even more than that, to be honest with you, and that was just in the first days. And he got zero new subscribers, no views, really nothing like that. So it just kind of shows that it's really fake. So it's incredible. And the guy even put a lot more media links on there, not just the Rumble and YouTube and all, but and he was thinking, this is really strange. You get like 10 times more people watching you on one thing, and then you get no subscribers. And when you had 10 times less, you get 20 new subscribers. Anyway, just putting that out. And it's just a lot of suspicious things. Like I said, people have contacted me and said YouTube would not accept the likes. They pushed it, or they deleted their comments and all sorts of things. So they do suppress channels. That's very obvious. And I'm just whining, I guess. So that's how that works. I guess you really have to remember these things when you put this stuff out. And I'm pretty sure that the information that I put out, maybe it's the algorithms when you say certain words and things, and maybe it's how you say it. I don't really understand how it works, but of course that's information that YouTube, they don't have any laws against it, but they really hate it. And so I guess they really suppress it. They're not going to send those to other people. And it's kind of weird because there's times when I'm doing videos and I get no new subscribers, even if I put out a video every single day, no new subscribers, very few views, even most of the time anyway. At least that's what it says. And it'll happen for weeks. And then all of a sudden, I get like maybe 5 or sometimes 10 new subscribers. That's in a very rare time. So even though I don't get that many more views, and it's just really weird. Like the other day, I got like 2 new subscribers, and like maybe for over a week or 2 before that, I got no new subscribers, even though I got even more views. I don't understand it. I think it's sometimes YouTube will let other people see the videos. Like, I don't know, I call it cold calling or something. Like they send it out to people that may actually like those videos, and most of the time they don't. So that's how that is, I'm guessing. So let's now get into some news here. Trump again had let it be known that he thinks that Putin is crazy. You know, Putin bombing, and he's like talking about killing people, even though Ukraine did not even say anybody died even in those bombings for those 3 days that Putin did that. It was, of course, in response to a heavy escalation of Ukraine with drone strikes against civilians in Russia. And Ukraine is still doing that, and Zelensky has already put out that he wants at least 500 drone strikes every single day. And of course, most of them are always against civilians. And something I have to mention to you guys, you know, I saw something somewhere, and it's apparently true, and it's possible to get access to this, to where, and it's not really put out, not into the public, but it's possible to get information. I don't know, you have to make the right friends or something, about how many, and even all the names of whatever Russians die every single day in that in the Donbass area, or the whole thing that goes on in Ukraine. And like the numbers, it seems like maybe, I don't know, around 100, maybe as much as 150 per day. But on those same days, of course, Ukraine is losing many, many more. It's like almost 10 times more, like 1,000 every day compared to Russia 100 apparently. And Douglas McGregor put out, I'm going to talk a lot about Douglas McGregor, and he's talking with Tucker Carlson, but it's as a minimum, most everybody agrees, probably even Ukrainians, that at least 1 million people have been killed. Some people have it at 1.2 million. Some even have it as high as 1.9 million soldiers for the most part. Mostly all soldiers have died in this conflict since the beginning of that. And Russia around 100,000 apparently, which is still a lot of people when you think about it. You think about the short time that Israel has been bombing and killing people, and it's like, anyway, they were bombing last night too, and I'll talk about that. But I don't know, it's like some people put up to 60,000, and now they're like slowing down the numbers. It's very strange. I kind of think that's very suspect, because it was like 60,000 not that long ago, and now they're talking 50,000. So did some people undie? I really don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. And there's a lot of bombings of school. I mean, obviously, everybody knows they're killing children on purpose. That is one of the main goals, is to kill children. I mean, of Israel, very obvious. Some people are saying that it's the same with Ukraine, because, you know, a lot of these drone strikes. Last night there were a number of. I'll get to that too. Let me just start going back onto my things that I wrote down here. Okay, but mostly I wanted to reiterate about what I just said, is that Trump remains uninformed and misinformed, and he does it by choice apparently. He does not want to believe what the truth is. He doesn't. It's very strange. He was maybe like that even in his first term. So I guess he's told, not shown any evidence, that Russia's lying. You know, there's still a lot of neocons, and of course I grew up in this era in the United States, but you have like Colonel Douglas McGregor, he knows what's really going on in the world. And for the most part, Tucker Carlson, not always, but most of the time, and a lot of other people. But Trump doesn't want to believe in them, and he'll just find out later on and he's wrong, and he'll still stick to his guns and say he's right. You know, some people are like that, hard-headed, I guess. Okay, so 500 drone, I already said that. Yeah, Russia's able to shoot most of these drones down, but last night, I guess 10 civilians were injured. Some of them, of course, are gonna die, because some of them are badly injured. And this was an attack on the Kursk region, and also in Rulsk, a place called Rulsk, 2 apartment buildings of 5 stories, which are probably they're probably from Stalin era. I'm going to try to hurry up. A whole bunch of young kids probably going to school here. That's Saturday, so I don't know if it's like some engineering schools or whatever. I don't know what kind of schools. I thought these schools were closed for the summer break now, but there's a lot of these young guys running around here. Okay, so 10 in the Kursk and also the Rulsk, 2 apartment buildings, 5 stories were hit and 7 injured, and it includes children, because I think these are family dwellings. They also, Ukraine used drones against a village called Artakovo, and a family of 3. All of the entire family is hospitalized. You know, I don't know. They probably are very badly injured. I'm just guessing. So, so what else? And there's also talking a little bit about like what's going on with the U.S. and Iran in these negotiations, supposedly. The big sticking point is the enrichment of uranium. Iran wants to continue doing this for peaceful purposes, and there is no evidence, absolutely zero, from anybody, anywhere, including Israel. They cannot find any evidence, even though Israel, they say, we have secret information, and I don't know if they create it. You know, a lot of these people, even the United States government, as you remember with George Galloway, they create fakes and frauds and fake signatures and everything and fake documents. And they, you know, trying to say that he was involved in business or something like that with Saddam Hussein back in those days. George Galloway, how great, you know, and they wanted him for questioning, and he went to the United States, and he cleaned the floor with the United States Senate. You know, I don't know if it was a joint house, they were investigating him, and he cleaned the floor with them, that they were just trying to set him up. You know, I don't know what they were trying to do to him, but they had fake signatures and all sorts of things, and they couldn't pin it on him, and they were like, oh, you know, real scared because he caught them, and they didn't think he would show up. I think Canada was doing the same thing to George Galloway back in those days. They're trying to cancel him and get him, you know. Of course, he did leave the Parliament in England, but anyway, he's a well-known figure. I don't think they can touch him because he's not corrupt or nothing, but they're really trying to make it look like he is. Okay, what else do we have here? But Trump, anyway, Trump thinks that nuclear enrichment means nuclear bombs. All these young kids hanging around all over the place here. Why don't they go to school or something? I don't know, there's something weird. They're hanging out in different places. So where do I go? I don't want to go on the main roads over here. I have to go this way, next to these kids. Okay. Anyway, so Trump, he is saying that if they don't stop enrichment, even if it's very low, even if it's not if it's not bomb grade enrichment, he actually said this, but I don't know that if this is true. You know, Trump is obviously a crazy type guy. Look at the kitty over here. He says he's going to bomb them if they don't stop enrichment, any kind of enrichment, even 5%, that he's going to bomb them. So let's see. You're a nice kitty. You don't even want to run, but I don't have any food anyway. Probably stray. I have no idea. Oops. Let me get out of here. I don't want to disturb these people. People don't like it seeing cameras, I think. So, anyway. But all this stuff from Trump is just like what he says in about Panama and a lot of other countries. He has these different approaches, of course. You see in Greenland and Canada, he's being a lot nicer. But he's certain places he gets more threatening, like the Panama Canal. We're going to take it back. It's ours. You know, it doesn't matter if some president sold it to Panama for $1, which I guess is the case. Trump says it's ours. I don't know. It just shows this propensity of not going by any kind of agreements that the United States made. You know, Even Donald Trump. It's up to if they sign some treaty, we'll just disobey it. Whenever it's to our liking and to our advantage, we will just disregard the treaty. So, I don't know. Did they take control of Panama yet? Or are they just scaring them? I don't know. The United States has done this so many times. So, what else do we have here? Panama Canal. What other places? Greenland. Yeah, I said. But he's obviously, Donald Trump, he's still trying to push for this unipolar world. He does not like the multipolar world. You guys see that? That is actually coming about. I don't think there's anything that Donald Trump can do to stop it, but he's trying to. He wants to destroy the BRICS, of course. He's trying to do this in various ways, and he thinks, and maybe it is even true, that the BRICS actually want to have a different payment system rather than the US dollar. And they already were talking about this new security system, a new security architecture. I talked about that yesterday. You have to watch that video. A lot of people are kind of pissed off about the United States security architecture. And obviously, okay. But Trump, he knows he controls Europe. It doesn't matter what they say or anything that they do. He controls Europe. And they will always do whatever Donald Trump wants them to do. And of course, what they want him to do, not what he wants them to do, but what they want him to do, is get involved in this conflict with Russia. And they want to get in the conflict. In a way they are, and in a way they're not. As you know, they supply weapons, and of course the US still supplies weapons to Ukraine, but they want it to get hot. And even Merz and a lot of people, even in Germany, are pretty pissed off because this guy wants a hot war. He's let that known, but he wants to do it obviously in a somewhat sneaky way. But everybody sees the writing on the wall, And a lot of them say that he is a Nazi. He's descended from Nazis, and it's just, I'll get to that too. It was an interesting conversation between Tucker Carlson and Colonel Douglas McGregor, and I'll get to a little bit about maybe the Nazism, or far right at least, after I keep with this information. Okay. Anyway, what is this? Also, you see he's a little bit shy about controlling Russia. I think he doesn't see them as much of a threat as China, because China has a lot of productive capacity, and he wants to dominate China in different ways. So he's trying to figure out better ways to do that with tariffs. And of course, the other ones didn't work so well. And he was saying, he lowered the tariffs again, from the, I don't know if maybe it is 145%. I don't even keep track, because he changes the numbers every week or something. But he says he did it out of compassion for China. But I think the United States was actually losing. This, so many people had said, of course, but Trump doesn't want to come out and admit that. So, it's normally, anyway, he's trying to put them in a position, you do as I say or else, just like with Russia or everybody on the earth. He wants everybody on earth to follow follow his bidding. And yeah, he's looking for ways, and he's trying to do it mostly with tariffs. Less bombing, but of course he's into the bombing thing as well, and supplying weapons. He wants to build the military much more powerfully, and then of course if they don't do what he says, and then don't knuckle down under tariffs, then he's probably going to bomb them. Like I said, he just said he was going to bomb Iran if they don't stop their nuclear enrichment. And he's doing that, of course, for Israel. He's subservient to Israel, as so many American politicians are. Israel calls the shots most of the time, as you guys know. Okay. And Trump, of course, is on the side of Ukraine, and of course he showed that very, very much after Ukraine signed the minerals deal. And he's always been sending the weapons. Now he's sending money and all. We're not supposed to know that. And of course he keeps the sanctions on Russia. Isn't that strange? He says he's neutral, but he sends money and weapons to Ukraine, and he has sanctions, and he signed the continuation of sanctions against Russia, but yet he's neutral. That doesn't sound very much like he's neutral to me. Okay. Trump is using, I would say, I'd call it a carrot on a stick approach with Russia. You know, he's acting like, oh, we're going to be friends, you know, and we're going to have dealings and economics, and maybe he is. But yeah, it's like, you deal with me, or else I'm going to continue sending even more bombs and long-range bombs. He's already said that. He's sending long-range missiles to Ukraine, and a 100 Patriot systems. I think originally, remember when everybody was flipping out, I think Ukraine got 20 and Russia destroyed most of them, and now it's another 100. Wow. Okay. But I think maybe these are not the most modern ones, and I think that Russia already knows how to deal with those, and it's not going to be any big scare to Russia. But it's $100 billion, so you can't discount that. Okay. The round of peace talks in Istanbul, that's certainly worth mentioning. A lot of information you may not know about that. But that the information is, you know that the USA is supposed to be going there as kind of like a spectator, and that's how Maria Zakharova said, as a spectator. But it's supposed to be dealing, it's a bilateral peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, and Ukraine was not going to go, but Donald Trump, apparently, he pressured them to go. And obviously, when they were pressured to go, you know they're not going to be going in good faith, obviously. And there's something else all I can say about that. But it's not just the United States going there that's supposed to be there just to observe as a spectator, but it's also Turkey, of course, is there because they're in Turkey, but also Germany. They're sending their people there, their envoys. Germany, France, and the UK. You know, because what's better, you know? So you have Russia on their side, and you have all these other countries, to their different degrees, are anti-Russia. The United States is a little bit less, and Turkey, as you know, Erdogan plays his own game, and he wants the Crimea, but that's kind of a distant hope. Erdogan, you never know what the heck he wants and what he's going to do anyway. Like I said, the loose cannon, and everybody agrees on that, even people from Turkey. I've talked to a lot of people from Turkey, and they say the same thing. They don't even know what Erdogan's going to do. You know, the old loose cannon guy. Okay, but anyway, Maria Zakharova, you know, she obviously knows it's all against Russia, all of them. So you have Russia on one side and all these other countries on the other, trying to crap on Russia. So she said that Russia respects these countries' freedom of movement, but does not appreciate their plans. She thanked Ankara, but stressed that there will be no mediators. Yeah, good luck on that one. She said the talks are bilateral and others are just spectators. And but it's obvious, very, very obvious. You guys know this. I mean, if you watch my channel and a lot of these other channels, all of these countries are there to act as, what do you call them? Directors, or I don't even know what the word is, but they're there to coach Ukraine. And they're there for their own interests as well. And of course, what is their interest? Their interest is to destroy Russia. You know, it's a strategic defeat of Russia. And they're just using Ukraine as a tool. And obviously, Zelensky is 100% willing to use his people as cannon fodder because it seems like it would be strange, because, you know, this started in the 1950s, and this ideology to hate Russians, to hate. And, you know, it's like every fiber of their body is designed to hate Russia. And that is their main goal of life when you're a leader in Ukraine, because you're part of this ideology. It's, you know, I don't know, you can call it Banderitism, or you can call it Nazism. So your chief concern is to hate Russia and to kill Russians, destroy Russia. That is your main goal in life as a politician. So, and it's like that fact is not lost on a lot of Russians. So. Anyway, I'll say a little bit more about what one of the representatives from Russia's United Nations team said. But first, let's go switch again. Like I said, I do this chronologically. Israel did a massive bombardment on, let's see, what was it? Last night. Yesterday was Lebanon, massive bombardment, southern Lebanon. And last night it was Syria's turn. And I don't know what was it the night before that, before Lebanon. I think that was Yemen in the airport and all that. So, you know, Israel's trying to make enemy. I don't know. They haven't started bombing or gone really against Jordan. Jordan is kind of subservient anyway, and they have to have some friends on the borders, and you know. And of course, there's Erdogan, who doesn't ever know what side he's on anyway. So, but he's not on the border. So, but anyway, Israel wants to keep expanding. So these other countries on their border, you know, they're trying to get them. And Egypt's a little bit too powerful, so maybe they're holding off. Maybe when they get some of their plans for Eretz Israel. And Israel, these people, they know they have 100 years, they have 200 years. They have all the time in the world to keep increasing the size of Israel to make it Eretz Israel. So they're not using time as any constraint. So, and it's weird, I wanted to say, it's like I said this in other videos, why is it that Syria has never, ever, in my entire lifetime, has never attacked Israel? Never. But Israel seems to be doing this nearly every week, at least every month. Oh, nice. A lot of red-headed girls I've seen along lately. So, anyhow, let's see. Anyway, at least every month. I don't know if it means like nearly every week they bomb Syria. They bomb somewhere in Syria. And who's this new joker? This former Al-Qaeda terrorist that killed a lot of Americans and things like that now America is dealing with. Donald Trump says he's a handsome guy. Anyway, strange world. So who's in charge of Syria? And the United States was so proud, you know. Oh, they got ISIS, but now ISIS is in charge. Or Al-Qaeda, I have no idea. Anyway, and it's I thought he was actually Israel's puppet. In a certain way he is, but he was actually a puppet of Turkey that helped him to get there too. Really weird world. I don't even really know that much. I just know Syria has turned out to be someplace like Libya. The United States completely basically destabilized it to where it's like not really a country anymore anyway. It's just competing factions. So mission accomplished, I suppose you could say. Okay, now the Istanbul talks. Ukraine, like I said, didn't want to go. Trump made them go. And Russia's UN, one of their representatives, Polyansky, said Russia is going there to talk, but Ukraine is going there to perform. How brilliant that is. That is absolutely the truth. As you see, and even J.D. Vance was mentioning something like that when Zelensky came to the White House. Zelensky, he's on stage. Everything he does is on stage. He goes everywhere, and he's putting on a performance. And I guess that's what he's used to. He was in that, what was that series that he was in where he plays some school teacher who becomes the leader of Ukraine? And of course, he was groomed to be exactly where he's at, and they were grooming him back then. He was groomed to be exactly what it is right now. Wow, it's incredible. But anyway, he's on performance. So mineral deals. Remember, they they had it all finalized, and they didn't sign it when Zelensky went there because he came there to perform in front of the cameras. And of course, that's obviously what's going on in Istanbul. It's there for a performance. So trust me 100%. Ukraine has no intention whatsoever of signing any peace agreement in Russia. And it may not ever happen. I don't know. It makes you wonder how much of Ukraine needs to be destroyed before something actually happens. And Anyway, let's talk about some death threats too. I don't know if I wrote them down here, but yeah, this chief negotiator, well, oh, I think I did write it down, so let me keep going. So, but this Polyansky, he also said, let me get to that. I'm using papers all the time now. He also said that Ukraine, and this is very true as well. See, he had said some brilliant things. Ukraine is going there to perform. That's very obvious. That's what they do. Ukraine is nothing but a, you know, you could say that on one side, the Ukraine is nothing but a media company. The government is a media company and running PR stunts all over the place. But this guy also said that the Ukraine government, or the Ukraine being used right now, is nothing but a private military company run by the West. And that's undeniable as well. You know, you can have various different perspectives about the same thing, and all of them can be accurate. It's very obvious, and it is absolutely true. The Ukraine is being used as a private military company by the West to use against Russia. Another way of saying it's a proxy military, and I'll tell you what, the United States is also still involved in that. Donald Trump, maybe he's a little bit cold, but Donald Trump does not control everything, as you all know anyway. And it's obvious. That's why these countries are all in Istanbul right now, because that's their proxy. That's their boy. That's their puppet. They all got to stick their hand up Ukraine's backs, on their back, and pull the strings and direct them to what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do, what they're going to sign, what they're not going to sign. It's not directed by Ukraine at all, and it's not even necessarily directed by them, because you have the Nazis also there. And if Zelensky does not do their bidding as well, so Zelensky's kind of doing a balancing act. He's got to balance what these people want, and it's normally congruent. It's exactly what they both want, the same thing, because these people are also Nazis. You know, Merz and all these people, Estonia, and these are a friggin' bunch of Nazis, and they want this Nazi, they want the destruction of Russia. So you guys know that. Like I said all the time, it's this Hate Russia Club. And their main goal is to destroy Russia. And to do so strategically, it has to coincide with destroying Russia economically, and they're not having very much luck doing it militarily. So it's to keep this circus going and figure out ways, make sure that Ukraine does not make any fake moves, and we'll see what happens. Okay, but it's not going to end. There's no intention of it ending. I don't even think Donald Trump is. You know, they talk about this ceasefire, and the ceasefire is because they know they're losing and they have to reinforce their troops. And Sersky said that they need like 30,000 troops every month, new troops every single month, to replenish all those that are dying in the meat grinder. And it's been turning out, I've been looking at some of these numbers, and it's closer to 40,000 that they are losing every month. So if you keep on if you meet your recruitment goals of 30,000 every month, it's not going to be enough. I just want to put that out. Okay. Lindsey Graham, he came out. Oh boy, what a performer he is too. It was yesterday he came out and he said that next week his bill, he's putting up a bill, and I guess it's all ready to go, and it's hitting the floor of the Senate starting on Monday. And it targets Russia, obviously, but it's also against China. So, well, in truth, what it is, it's trying to, and I guess Donald Trump is probably very, very much in favor of this, even though he's not necessarily going to come right out and say it. You know, he's going to come out and say that he wants peace, but of course he wants peace on his terms. And what are his terms? His terms, of course, if he can get what do they say, kill a bunch of birds with one stone, he's going to do that. And Lindsey Graham's bill, obviously he negotiated with Donald Trump, to make this bill before this is going to come out anyway. So Lindsey Graham said yesterday that his bill targets Russia. It'll start, it's about, he didn't say secondary sanctions, but that's exactly what it was. And Trump has been also talking about secondary sanctions. A lot of people are warning Trump against this, say that's it's not going to be too good. It's going to go against the United States. But Lindsey Graham's bill says, because it's like he doesn't like the relationship, obviously, between China and Russia. And he sees that China buying Russian oil, it helps Russia to keep the war going in Ukraine. It's very much like all these countries flooding money into Ukraine and all the weapons. It keeps Ukraine going. And every country has to trade. You just can't create money within your borders and expect to live. You have to be trading outside of your country. And that's how that whole thing works. So he said it's going to be 500% tariffs on everything from China that comes to the United States if China continues to buy oil and oil products from Russia. And I think maybe he means more than just that. And I mentioned yesterday that China, at least the story I read, you never know about any of this news anyway, but apparently they're supposed to stop supplying Ukraine with Mavic drones, which are most of these drones that what China has been using, it's the smaller drones, not the bigger ones. There are big drones too, and of course some are coming from obviously Australia, a lot of them, those cardboard drones, very heavy cardboard, of course, and they are very destructive, and they're very cheap to make and lightweight, and Australia sends them a lot of those. And of course they're getting drones from the Baltic states and all kinds of places, and United States drones, believe it or not. The United States, yes, is giving drones to Ukraine. So just for your information. And the United States is flying drones. They have surveillance drones flying all over around that way. They're giving all kinds of intelligence information to Ukraine, where the Russian troops are located, all kinds of things, how many of them there are. In the old days we had, and that was the unit that I was in, we had what they used to call in the Vietnam days LRRPs, what they're called in my time is long range LRSD, a long range surveillance detachments. And the goal was to get put into camouflage, things like that, and to go deep behind enemy lines, to go in places where there are troops, find your way, live off the land for the most part, and carry a lot of water with you is one thing, and camouflage, and binoculars, and so you're carrying a lot of crap. And then you spy. It's like combat spy. So then you look at what kind of equipment some place has, and how many troops approximately. You sit there for maybe a little while and watching, and you get a good rough estimate. And then we had these things called DMDGs. We call them DMDGs, digital mesh DMDGs. Why is it DMDG? Anyway, I think I've even saw DMSD. But we call it, anyway, DMSG, which is digital message sending devices. And this was back in the 1980s. And it's like a little small 13-inch laptop thing. And you type in some of this stuff, it goes to satellite and it goes to various places. And that was a real state-of-the-art stuff back in those days, big time, and we had things like what cell phones are now, but of course you needed these great big batteries, and we called them MRTs, mobile radio telephones, and so you don't need to be connected on any kind of a wire, and it was very secure in those days as well. And then we had sending places. One was in Kalkar in northern Germany, near Goch and Krefeld, and Larbruck. It was near Larbruck, British military base at that time. We had another one in Hahn, near Hahn Air Base. There's a Hahn Air Base, and then we had other bases there. I'm trying to, it's my memory. This is the 1980s. And I'm trying to think, we had these stations there. It was very high security and all that. Even American soldiers could not go on there without any kind of special permission. So anyway, let's not talk about that stuff. It's just a little side information maybe you guys like. You can look a lot of this stuff up yourself and all that, like a lot of the stuff I talk about, the old days. Okay, but anyway, 500% tariffs. And I don't think that's going to work. Obviously, there's, that's... But we'll see. But you never know. You never know. Are they going to really try to do that? And I don't think China is going to fall for that either. Donald Trump said, "Oh, I had compassion for China, so I stopped this," but obviously he didn't. Okay, there have been numerous death threats to the chief negotiator for Russia, Vladimir Medinsky of Russia, and it's not just him. He's getting a lot of death threats from these Nazis in Ukraine. to kill his family as well, because that's what it is. We know where your daughter does her laundry, man. We wouldn't want anything to happen to her. So what they're trying to do is make sure there is going to be no peace. And like I said, the Nazis, Budanov in Ukraine and all that, you know, these guys do not want peace. So Zelensky can act as if he does, and everybody knows Zelensky does not want peace, because if Zelensky, if he even comes close to peace, it's like, you know, he's gone. He's gone. They don't want peace. They want domination. And something I wish I could actually show this to you guys, you know, but it's also coming on some other networks over here in Russia. But in some of this, and this was even done with Canada, Ukraine. This is even going back into the old days. We're going back even decades ago with Canada, institutes in Canada and stuff. And they came up with this belief that Ukraine has a right to a large port. I mean, obviously, Kursk region, that's where they've been invading and trying to get into, and Belgorod, things like that. They say that is Ukraine, that's part of Ukraine, even though there's never ever been any Ukrainian administration or administratively there whatsoever. It never existed. Obviously, some people from Ukraine, the area called Ukraine, have been there, but then there's been some from Russia, many more going to Ukraine and everywhere else in there. And that doesn't mean that Russia says we have a right to take all of Ukraine. Well, they actually do have a right, because Ukraine was part of Russia, and even the name Ukraine, which means on the edge of the empire of Russia. So Ukraine was always a part of Russia. It was a part of Russia and always was, except for maybe after when was this collapse supposedly of the Soviet Union. And the first time they ever called people Russians were people from Kiev. The people from Kiev were called Russians. And that was the first, you know, even before anybody from the Moscow region or St. Petersburg were called Russians, the people from Kiev were called the Russians. So, you know, it's like really some strange stuff. So that's how that works. It's interesting history. And of course, maybe if you find history books now, obviously things get changed. Maybe they're trying to change it all, you know. That's why it's important to keep your old history books, you know. Very interesting. What is that? Oh, it's a bird up there. Anyway, what else? Lindsey Graham, I talked about him already. And, you know, he said he's already told about his absolute ecstatic delight that Russians are dying. And, oh, I got to get to what I'm going to say also now about what Colonel Macgregor said, what I've studied in history, and what a lot of people have said. I don't want to jump in front of myself, but I kind of have to now. But, you know, Lindsey Graham, his delight at Russians dying, and, you know, like what's her name, Kaya Kallas, basically said the same thing, but she only verbally came out. You have evidence that she said that they want to kill more Russian children. And, you know, it's very interesting stuff, because this is all true, and this is all on evidence. This is all, you know, they said it right on video. It's not any deep fake stuff. These people are saying this stuff. It's incredible. Robert Fico at one point in time, and he said, because he knows what's going on. I love Robert Fico. Robert Fico, very, he's about one of the most accurate leaders on the planet, and he's not scared. He talked about real truth about COVID and vaccines and things, you know. He's like, you know, I don't even know, seriously. I don't think that even Lukashenko comes right out and says this stuff, but Fico did. I don't know, there are probably reasons why Lukashenko does not come out, but he didn't get vaccinated. Fico didn't get vaccinated either. And, you know, anyway, very interesting stuff. And but Fico came out and said that these people, these are like Western people, and he also means Western Europe, mostly Western Europe, of course, not just the UK, but they want to kill Slavic people. And I said I saw that. I've mentioned that so many times in my videos. I saw that in it's like, what, I could clean my eyes. Old books, I'm talking old books. And the European leadership, even back in those days, they had a hatred of Russians. I mean, Slavic peoples, not just Russian, Slavic peoples. And they set up my field of study, my main field of study, what I specialized in at the university was like this sort of area. And like the Nordmarks, they had the marches, and that was to keep Slavic people out of Europe back then, they didn't have necessarily the ability to just invade and start killing them en masse, so they really didn't. But anyway, they would have loved to do that if they could. There was, of course, a lot of this stuff in there. You know, I'm not even sure about that history. I got to look up that because anyway, I can't study all world history from everywhere. But anyway, Lindsey Graham, he is very happy, and he thinks that he's basically having real bad threats against both Russia and China. He wants to destroy that relationship. Donald Trump said he does as well, you know, and it was a very bad, you know, they wanted to break up the relationship between Germany and Russia because Russia had all this energy and the oil and the gas and all that, and they were making money, and Germany was making money with products, making automobiles, BMWs, Mercedes, and getting very rich on cheap Russian energy. And so they broke that up. You know, Donald Trump and Biden, you know, they had to get rid of that big threat. But then they didn't think of this threat. Well, what if Russia makes friends with China? China has even bigger productive capacity than Germany. So Germany now is tanking big time. They're having negative growth year after year after year, which means very, very bad. Even if they lie and they say 0.03% growth or something like that, it is actually negative growth. You have to be expanding by probably close to 2% before you can be considered actually a growing economy. That's really what economists say. And Germany's far below that. And of course, not only that, everybody's moving out. Factories, even that have been there for hundreds of years, are closing down. You know, starting back in the old days, they survived world wars and things, but they can't survive. You know, and a lot of people are saying the Germans are destroying Germany, and of course that's absolutely, definitely, undeniably true. They have terrible policies, you know. So anyway, enough on that one. And let's see. Okay. I don't know if I wanted to say anything more about that. Anyway, okay. I talked about the death threats from this guy. So anyone, and they talk, even people talking about peace, they're threatening this sort of death. Any people, like even reporters, you know, they're going after them. Anybody that's saying things that they don't like, they're getting rid of them. But Tucker Carlson said there's no Nazis, you know, and you got to find out. You got to figure out what is a Nazi? How do you define a Nazi? You know, and everybody's talking this far right stuff and whatever, nationalists, and you know, nobody really likes to use that word Nazi, but these are Nazis. Nazis are like superiorists. They think that they're superior to everybody, and of course, any way that works in their favor to reach that is what, you know, is what they will do. Killing children, everything. And like I said, there is no distinction, in my opinion, between these Nazis in Ukraine and the Nazis that are in Israel. These are friggin' Nazis. There is no doubt. It's an undeniable fact. Undeniable. They have the same ideology. Netanyahu is a Nazi. He is a Nazi, and there is no denying that. Oh, but he's Jew. He can't be a Nazi. He's a friggin' Nazi. He is a Nazi. He's a Nazi. Zelensky is a Nazi. You know, it's just kind of like George Bush. Remember back in those old days? You know, they say, oh, George Bush wasn't a neocon. Well, why did he do everything that a neocon does? He was a friggin' neocon, you know? And even old Satan Yahoo himself got in front of the United States Congress and said, well, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, it must be a duck. Well then, Netanyahu, you friggin' must be a friggin' Nazi. I'd like to use different words because that pisses me off, but I'm not. For you religious people out there, and mothers, and your children that might be there too. Anyway, I already talked about these documents. These are old documents, and they're all kind of yellowing pages, and they have maps, and these are like printed. It's like these maps that they made. It's incredible, and they must have been done in series. It's not like somebody drew them up a one-time deal. These are like quality made maps, maybe from older days, like in maybe, I don't know, 50s and 60s and stuff, you know, showing that Ukraine wants, you know, basically that they consider a large portion of Belarus and Russia as their territory. And Zelensky, I think he even came out one time and said Krasnodar, all those areas, those are Ukrainian. You know? Gosh. Makes me wonder when they're going to start pushing to the west too. I don't know. Maybe they do already. And Poland, as you know, they have their own designs on things too. It's very strange, isn't it? Lukashenko is bad and he's evil, but he has no designs whatsoever on any part of Ukraine, any part of Lithuania, any part of any of those places. He's never said that. He's he's never wanted to, but yet he's a bad guy. He's a imperialist. I don't know. It's just unbelievable. Okay. And I tell you what, if anybody should want something, you know, like, what do they call it, this I keep forgetting the name, this corridor where it's the shortest distance between Belarus and Kaliningrad. Technically, he should want that. And I'll tell you what, they make war on Russia, and of course that probably will end up. And at one time it was a part of Belarus, but he's not saying he wants it back, not like Poland. Anyway, so that's the end of that one. Okay, large portion, let's see, how much, okay. But anyway, you can see, you know, they have Eretz Israel, and now you have Eretz Ukraine. Oh, it's raining now, baby. Gotta get underneath this tree. So Eretz Israel, Eretz Ukraine. Okay, Tucker Carlson, when he was interviewing Douglas McGregor, and him, in the space of 10 seconds, what they said, you know, it's like, you'd have to watch this video. And actually, they talked a little bit longer, but you can get an explicit part of it in 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds. And it's a little bit more like Douglas McGregor said that a lot of these people, these I don't know if you, what do you call them, neocons or establishment people or Nazis or whatever, they see it as an added benefit to kill Ukrainians as well as to kill the Russians. That's exactly what I just said, because they definitely, they want Ukrainians dead as well. As a matter of fact, if anybody, you know, and I'm sure there are some people in Belarus that watch this, they want you dead too. You are Slavic, and they don't see any difference. Trust me, I lived over there. I was there in the Cold War. I had dealt with these people. They don't see any difference between a Belarusian, a Ukrainian, and a Russian, and they want to kill all of you. They want all of you subjugated. Of course, they don't want to kill every one of you. They want to kill enough of you to where it can never ever be a threat, and the rest of you will be used as dishwashers and people that clean the floors and all that sort of stuff as they dominate everything. Only those that are loyal and love America and the West are the ones that are going to be allowed any kind of privileged positions. And trust me on that one. Okay. And another thing, but what they said, it was within this 10 seconds, and Tucker Carlson added to that about Christians. And I remember calling somebody long before I even came to Belarus. I'm talking about maybe about 2020, and I called the show, and I mentioned that already on this show before, and they didn't even understand me, because it's like they were not as far, even though it was my mentor. It was Mike Rivera, and his wife was on there, and I was saying this seems to be a war against Christians. And I was talking at that time about this stuff going on in Syria, because that's mostly what they were doing. And Bashar Assad is a Christian, and it's like they're killing Christians. Why? You know, it's like that seems to be one of the major goals. It's not just the Muslims, and obviously, as you can see, and if you guys start looking at religious theory and stuff like that, of these three religions that are linked, the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians, which all believe in the same God and whatnot. And of course, a lot of the Jews are going to say, oh no, that's not true, or whatever like that. And most of the Jews, they hate Christians too. They hate Christians just as much as they hate the Muslims, but they use Muslims and Christians. And as a matter of fact, I told you about that book, Every Spy a Prince. It even says that in there. They are so proud and happy that they were able to get Muslims and Christians to kill each other. So we're not supposed to talk about that, but it's written towards the back of the book, you know. And they said that's one of the most successful things that they ever did, was to get Muslims and Christians to kill each other. They didn't. It's not happening in Russia, unfortunately. That's maybe they're going to probably get around to that. But anyway, the West is doing that, and it's kind of very strange because they. I'll keep going. Let me keep going here. But like I said that years ago, and I've said this about the Slavs as well. But they both said this. McGregor had his point about the added benefit of killing Ukrainians, and Tucker Carlson added to that they're killing Christians. And you know, and it's like, what? You know, you just heard that in less than 10 seconds from both of them. You have to watch the video to see that. Like things I've been saying again. I'm just kind of bragging, saying that I'm way ahead of these guys on this stuff. Anyway, okay. Oh, and McGregor, before that, what he was saying, and a lot of people are saying, well, why is Putin's advance going so slow? And McGregor, you know, a very well-informed guy, he said it's because Putin does not want to kill Christians. He doesn't want to kill Christians. He doesn't, I'll tell you what, he doesn't want to kill Slavic Christians. They're Orthodox Christians. He does not want to do this stuff. And he's already said that. It's already been put out. And of course, that's completely lost to Donald Trump and all that. They don't see that at all. They don't. Who was it? I think it was Scott Ritter said that Donald Trump and most all of his advisors apparently are complete and total blithering idiots when it comes to knowing anything about Russia and Russians. And I agree with that. I have to agree with that. I don't know. It makes you wonder, how can you get such stupid people, and they got advisors that don't know anything about what the heck they're advising about? It's in the United States government. It's just unbelievable, you know. And I know that Colonel McGregor and Scott Ritter will agree with me on that. And it's like, I'm not a great expert, and I'm thinking, well, how come these people are, you know, I'm like an intellectual brain compared to these idiots. It's absolutely incredible. I don't even claim to know that much. Boy, okay. Anyway. But anyway, it's going slow. And then that's another thing is, you know, the West is threatening Russia, and even they're looking at Russia, and even Donald Trump obviously has indicated this. He thinks that Russia does not have the capacity, for example, to completely destroy Kiev. He's saying, oh, Putin went crazy and he's killing people in Kiev and stuff. Well, Russia, he is restrained. And Donald Trump, he never thought of saying, well, why did he bomb some particular places in Kiev? Oh, you know, I mean, it's like, maybe it's because they were building drones there, and that's what Ukraine is, you know, they're trying to, you know, lower the amount of drones that are attacking, and now Zelensky's using swarms. He said, oh, anyway. I feel stupid repeating this stuff that is just idiotic. Well, I mean, I've told it to you guys before, but anyhow, okay. So, yeah, Christians, elites, let's see, what does it say? Well, basically Tucker said that killing Christians is one of the goals of the elites. He didn't quite say it that way. And I say, of course, Muslims are also on the menu. But we saw, I was going to also reiterate this, on October 7th, 2023, when, you know, like Netanyahu, oh, it's our 9/11 sort of a deal, and they said Hamas killed all those people. And I think they give this number of 1,200, and of course that's complete fabrication, just like 6 million Jews, 6 million Jews. They said 6 million Jews in World War I, 6 million Jews in World War II. It's really weird because you can go from the tip of Portugal all the way past Moscow, and in all of those areas, they estimated it was like 4.5 million Jews. So how could Germany kill 6 million Jews when there wasn't 6 million Jews to kill? And then why is it that there's so many Jews that did not get killed? And when, you know, the numbers don't add up. And even a lot of Jewish scholars have even come up and said it's a bunch of fake stuff as well. And I think the number is not of Jews, of all people probably that died in concentration camps and all of this. I'm talking about like gypsies and whatever. I think the amount, I believe, according to the Red Cross records, I think is like 175,000. So that's a far, far, far lower number than 6 million Jews alone, which, oh, come on now. Anyway, let's go. Let's see. On October 7th, and you know, they called it the Hannibal Directive. and what they were doing, and this is admitted, it's admitted by many, many people of Israel, but it's all heavily suppressed to where it's just like so many things. You know, they keep bombarding us with the lie, a lie, a lie, and a consistent story to make sure that you get rid of it, and the lie becomes the truth. So, and this Hannibal directive, of course, that was to kill even all Jews that were either just about to or very strongly possibly becoming hostages of Hamas. And Hamas, obviously, they wanted to get hostages and then exchange them for Palestinian women and children hostages. And Israel has many, many, many thousands of them. And Hamas, I guess they probably had hardly any at all at that time. So they were going to get some and then exchange them. And that was the whole plan. And it wasn't to kill anybody. And a lot of people say, and it's very, very probable, that Israel purposefully let them come in to do this in order to do exactly what they're doing right now, to take over all of Gaza. And there might even be witnesses to this. It's very sinister kind of stuff. But it was, I think, in all, I think it was like possibly as many as 370 people died, Israeli citizens or people at that time, and Hamas, I think, as well. So that's far, far lower than the 1,200. And there was like obviously absolutely zero rapes. There was no rapes whatsoever. And of course, raping and killing, and you know, they just anything to make them Hamas look bad. And you know, most people are buying that, of course, now. So that's like the Russians are, you know. And I'm not saying that there is no rapes or anything. There probably is by Russians and those people. I don't know. Probably not very many. Okay. So anyway, but like what I was saying, that they're now, you know, they're killing Christians purposely, and Muslims. You guys have already known that for your whole lifetime. They're killing Muslims, these elites in the West. But now they even kill Jews. And before that used to be a big taboo, because it was put out mostly by a lot of these Zionist peoples as well, is that the fingernail of one Jew is worth 10 lives of a goy, meaning people that are not Jews. So 10 of you have less value than a Jewish fingernail. So, and that they say that. Okay, many witnesses talk about this Hannibal directive, and a number was certainly not 1,200. I already said that stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. And one just last thing, you know, when watching this video and this is, it's over an hour. It's going to take all day and all night probably to upload this video. So both McGregor and Carlson said that the government of Ukraine is totally evil, and McGregor said completely evil too. And wow, it shows how much faith they have in them. McGregor said that the only party in Germany that certainly does want to end this is the AFD, and the other ones, of course, if you're looking at like the SPD, the CDU, CSU coalition thing, or they're not coalition, they're combined parties, you know, and you know, the Greens especially, you know, it's like their color is green, and you think it's for these trees and all that. Their green color, it seems to be for the military uniform. So that's what they represent, is military. They're the militarist, most militarist party, you know, under Baerbock and all that. And but anyway, McGregor, like I've already said, and I was pleasing when you hear a lot of these people. I call McGregor an intellectual. I even call Scott Ritter an intellectual. He doesn't seem like one, but he actually is. Scott Ritter is pretty intellectual. He gets emotional too, but I like Scott Ritter. But anyhow, but he said that the AFD, McGregor, he said that they're certainly not far right. And if you obviously, and what I said, I guess, in one video not long ago, if you want to look at the far right parties, and that are actually akin to actually being Nazis, it is all these other parties. It is the Greens, it is even the SPD now, and it didn't used to be, but this is what it is lying. And the CDU, CSU, these are like Nazis. These people are the closest to Nazis that any Germans have ever been since the end of World War II. And the AFD is exactly the opposite. They are, if you want to be honest, they are the most centrist party in Germany in a long, long time. Even even Angela Merkel, she hated Russians for the most part. She would deal with Russians, but she secretly hated Russians too, and that's why she disobeyed the Minsk Accords and said that the whole idea was to to go against Russia militarily. Obviously for this, what do they call it? This strategic defeat. They want to defeat Russia. So yeah, that's about all I have to say, Rot, for this video. But a lot of this information, and I put a lot of this stuff out in other videos as well with you guys. I have to keep repeating that, because it's just like what happened in Israel on that October 7th. They want to keep whitewashing this. It's like throw more paint on it, throw more paint on it, make you believe something else until you say, well, is that true? Did I really hear that? Did I see that? Did I witness that? All these witnesses and things. And then you start to disbelieve all this stuff that you guys have already learned in the past. And you got to try to remember this stuff and keep it in your memory, of the real truth and the things that really happened. Otherwise, they change history, and you're going to deny the real history yourself. Very, very wicked stuff. And like I say, they now have online books, everything. They're trying to change all the history of everything with newer editions and things. It's really some crazy stuff. So I don't know, how many times have they done that in the past? It's like a book burning. They don't have to burn the books anymore. They just change it on the internet. Like Adolf Hitler, they have had book burnings hundreds of years even before Adolf Hitler did the book burning in Berlin on that one occasion. So anyhow, that's all I have to say for right now. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.